went to Philadelphia, and I did very well the first half of my first term there. But with my newfound freedom and a friend that I met working at the Presbyterian Ministers Fund between classes, my social life perked up, and I became more interested in it than I was in my studies. One thing that had been impressed on me by my parents and by my grandmother, that I shouldn't date a Catholic girl.
Now, had the message been there in your growing up years in an anti-Catholic emphasis?
The Catholic Church taught doctrines that were unscriptural. That was what I learned. But as I went into my teens, the additional message that I ought to date a Catholic girl was emphasized. Well, I met a Catholic girl and fell for her. I thought that my first responsibility was to convert her. So I tried my best with all the arguments that I knew, that I learned growing up and that I learned in seminary, and they didn't make much of an impression on her. I used one argument that I'd learned, and that was that Catholics were in the church because out of fear. And she said, no, it wasn't out of fear. She loved the Catholic Church, and that just stopped me cold. What else could I say? Her father became concerned about her involvement with a Protestant boy, and told her that she couldn't go out with me anymore. And that was a bit of a trauma. We did end up being able to see each other on rare occasions, but the impetus was kind of gone from the relationship. Towards the end of the time that I knew her, she sent me a book called The Question Box by Father Conway. And she had marked pages and checked questions that I'd asked her. They were all answered. As a matter of fact, some questions that I thought I had originated were answered. And I got very interested in Catholicism. As a matter of fact, it was almost a relief to see these answers, because as hard as I had fought against Catholicism, I was attracted to it. And to find that my objections could be answered that clearly and that convincingly really opened my eyes. Now, it was a number of years before I became Catholic, but I began attending Catholic Mass more often than Protestant services. The thing that held me back primarily was, again, my father's ministry. As my mother emphasized, it would be very detrimental to his ministry for a son to become a Catholic. So that's what held me back.
Were they discouraging you from, other than that? I mean, what about the theology of it?
Oh, yeah.
Right, okay.
My father would argue against various theological points, and he was basically a Calvinist, but it wasn't a severe Calvinism.
Yeah.
I was convinced I was one of the elect, but if, as he told me, I reached the point where I didn't care whether I was pleasing God or not, then I could question if I was really one of the elect. So it wasn't that kind of cut and dried Calvinism that is often parodied. But there was still that I was reacting against what I'd been taught. It was that it seemed like there was more. And I was particularly interested in the Eucharist.
Your bed probably did it once a month?
Yeah.
Did Lord's Supper once a month?
Right. But I was never quite clear on what it meant. It was moving. The service was moving. I loved the hymns especially that accompanied it. But I never got a clear understanding of what was happening here. It was more what we don't believe than what we believe. And when I was away at seminary in Philadelphia, I began reading some books on Lutheranism. is that anything but the Catholic Church. Let's see how far I can go without becoming Catholic. I read a Lutheran argument for their view of consubstantiation, and I thought, actually, this seems to point more towards transubstantiation than consubstantiation. So that was another step in my way, or on the way. I decided that I didn't want to continue at seminary. I was doing badly at that point because I'd lost interest in it, and my father became concerned, and he wanted me to come home for the summer after the first term. But I was involved with this girl, Marie, and for the first time in my life, I refused to do what my father asked me to do. I said, I'm a man now, I'm on my own, I'm independently supported, and so on. So I stayed in Philadelphia. But as I said, we ended up breaking up. But I didn't lose my interest in Catholicism when we broke up. I transferred from, I went to a small Lutheran school first, my first 2 years, but I decided I wanted to graduate from a school that had a name, so I transferred to Penn State. While I was there, I did a lot of reading. I read some St. Thomas, and I read various devotional books, and my interest increased. But because, again, of my father's ministry, I delayed. But then my father died. He had a heart attack. And I thought, oh no, I hope it wasn't because of me. But the way was open then. Still I delayed. I graduated from Penn State. Our hearts is through the Eucharist. Of course, it's conditioned on our hearts being open to Him. It's possible for us to receive the Eucharist and our hearts be closed, in which case our intimacy isn't increased. But if our hearts are open, He becomes more and more present in us the more we receive Him and the more open we are to Him.
It's because we take the Bible very seriously. John 6.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you eat my body and drink my blood.
You have no life in you.
That's right. That's what our Lord said. Email from Kelsey from Annapolis. My sister is a fallen away Catholic who is now an enthusiastic Protestant. She says that the Catholic Church changed the Bible and added more books. I don't think this is the case, and am interested to know what the difference would be between Protestant and Catholic Bibles.
Well, actually, it's not that the Catholic Church added books, it's that the Protestant Church dropped books. Church of James either, because of the emphasis on good works. So the Bible that was used in the early church was the Greek Septuagint. And the Greek Septuagint was a translation of the Hebrew Old Testament, and it included the books that Protestants call the Apocrypha. So the books that were being read and taught from it in the early church in the Greek Septuagint included what the Protestants call Apocrypha. It was only in the 16th century that those books were dropped.
Yeah.
So the original Bible included those books.
Dr. Gregson wasn't a practicing Catholic. Did he feel something was missing? Was there a tug at all back towards the Catholic Church?
Oh, definitely. As I mentioned, I had these rationalizations that I was hoping to help bring the group that I was with into the Catholic Church. But I knew that I myself did not want to die outside the Catholic Church. And I can remember looking up at the blue sky as I was walking my dog one day and thinking, this is Our Lady's mantle, and asking her to keep me from dying outside the Catholic Church. So yes, I definitely felt a tug.